Hello, hello. Um, it's a beautiful morning in LA, US, and probably a great evening in Europe. Can you guys hear us? Yes, I think so. Awesome, awesome. I will also do a test with Lucian. Lucian, can you hear me? Are we on? Um, your mic is muted. I'm wondering if you can unmute it and mute it again. Testing, testing. It's always super funny for me to see how a spaces unfolds just because of how many times something doesn't work. So we'll see a bit how it goes this time. Just
Let
yes,
let's
now loud
oh,
and clear.
hey, how's it
How's it?
going?
Good, good. Can you hear us? Does it work now?
I hope it's funny how the internet can screw things up exactly when it's needed. So actually, we're in the hotel in LA, and funny how it seems like the entire internet connection is down from the hotel, uh, just in time for the stream.
Indeed, indeed. Internet is down, but good we have some phones and it's working. So we're here. Let me share a bit of context first, set the context, and then come with some very specific points and begin the conversation. One, we've heard a lot of feedback from many people, many friends, many builders, and so on. And the feedback was not one-sided. People got that there's something big potentially happening here, but also that there are some things missing, unclear, maybe not aligned, not communicated. And so we thought it would be great to do a conversation where we're essentially tackling a few of the very concrete points from a few different angles. The point today is not to go through everything and try to solve everything, but to be here in the trenches with the builders, with the community, and get a closer sentiment and temperature check on everything that's happening, but then also share a bit of the bigger picture. Because I believe that in the noise, in the rush to move some things, usually the bigger picture is lost. The importance of a kind of step is lost, and we're here to bring some clarity, hopefully, and add some of the points that hopefully get the community excited because this is the goal with what we're doing. So, without further ado, we've also done something I think very cool, which is brought a surprise guest, which is Greg. And I'm, of course, here with Lucian, and we'll invite him to share some thoughts, some ideas. I'll share some thoughts, some ideas, especially on a few questions or a few points that we've seen from the community. But I'll also invite Greg. And I'll frame this conversation and state this. This today is not a conversation, let's say, from the xMoney side. This is a conversation from the MultiversX side, and we're exploring how things fit, how they're relevant, how they bring value to MultiversX, and we'll state proactively that the xMoney team will have a proper spaces, a proper conversation, a proper space carved out for them to go through some of the questions, some of the ideas, some of the things that you're looking at that you've shared, and they'll do that on Monday as the team has shared yesterday, I think. But today is about MultiversX and about touching a few of the core matters that we've seen. So first, I'll maybe invite Lucian, then I'll state a few thoughts myself, then I'll invite Greg, to share 2 3 thoughts, and then we'll do the following. We'll invite a few of the people, the builders, the people from different communities to maybe share some thoughts, but then ask some questions. Ideally, this will be something like a 1 hour conversation, and we'll try to cover a lot of ground. But again, the point here is to almost attack the biggest elephants in the room, because we believe that if the biggest points are clear, then everything else is almost falling into place and just needs a bit of realignment. So to begin with, I'll maybe invite Lucian to share some thoughts on the idea with the move on xMoney, and then some of the most important points that are relevant for MultiversX. Lucian?
Yes, happy to chat, and I think it's very much needed, especially as you mentioned, the intensity of feelings that we as a community went the last 48 hours is how should I say it in a nice way? I would say uh, boiling water is an understatement, and by that actually I I've been listening, hearing, collecting feedback, and carefully actually analyzing and trying to see what what are the next steps actually, the right steps actually to communicate and put things in 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 a good manner between us. And I'll start with maybe one fundamental point where uh, people from the community were founders still invested in EGLD? Are we and the core still invested in EGLD? And the question is definitely yes. And invested in all the senses, that the proportion is almost that we are here and here in an hard to explain manner how big the bet, how big the stakes are. And I think one simple sentence to describe this, and I said that several times, for um, for the community, is that we, both me and Benjamin, are more invested than we were at Genesis in EGLD, and we are here to make things work. So simple terms.
I think the
Let's
connection, by
start.
the way, your Lucian, I'm wondering, are you on
Yes.
Wi-Fi or just internet? Because the Wi-Fi
Let,
breaks probably completely, and it's much better
okay.
to
So
be
let
on
me try that.
mobile. The
Um,
beauty,
1, 2. Let's see.
yes,
Does
I
it work
think it's
better
much
now?
better. Yes, much better.
Okay. Okay. So I was stating that I'm not sure where it broke, by the way, if it was understood or
No, so you
clear.
were, yeah, you were stating that we're both much more invested than at Genesis, and then maybe what that means.
Yes. And particular to that, actually, whenever communities hurt or feels an intense feeling, we're here and we're feeling it more than whoever thinks that we're not in. Actually, we're here on steroids, and this is pure reason why we're having this kind of discussion. Just um, yeah, being a community, we are in the trenches with everybody around. Now, if I would go and move the discussion once further, and I would want to picture with me the following case: if Stripe announced Tempo, which is the largest payment company, one of the largest payment company in the world, that actually is being able to leverage most powerful Web2 company in the world through their network, through their active distribution. Now, if we look at xMoney product, now the question is, what is the game that makes sense to be played? What is our edge? And what is the only game, perhaps, that is giving us an edge superior to whatever the competitors are doing? Now, if I look to that, if the Web2 play is already almost settled for those companies, the Web3 play is not. And this is actually perhaps the only edge that gives us instant superiority. And it's up to us if we look at particularly what gives those companies an extreme value is particular distribution. And with distribution, actually, it translates to integrations, it translates to uh, communities, it translates to the value of the network being integrated worldwide. Now, if we look now with this lens, where we are today and what we are doing, I think this sets particularly a totally different framing, a totally different edge, how the discussion today should follow. Pausing here and giving you the mic again. But
So maybe I'll just attack a bit the most important points first, and then I'll share the big vision on what you're stating, Lucian, because I think the message that went out in some sense took people off guard. There was not enough context for them to process it, to make sense of it, and to see where the value is. So what Lucian has been mentioning is this: the question, the big question and the obvious question: are we invested? Are we actually pushing in the right direction? Do we want to make the MultiversX ecosystem as valuable as possible? Yes. We've not only invested money, we've invested our lives. There's no more than we can invest. We're when we say to people, "Hey, um, invest only what you can afford to lose." Well, we've put everything in this to make it work. So if we find a way to make it work, then it will be awesome. If we don't find, we know we've pushed everything we have. That's one. Second, very concretely, I think one of the points in the article that Mihai raised and shared and so on, Mihai, the young Padawan, to put it in a nice way. Um, he made one of the biggest points, which is a question that is raised: is MultiversX owning a large part or a majority part in this xMoney endeavor? Because that's crucial, that's important. And the big answer is yes. MultiversX as the foundation owns the majority of xMoney. So whoever else comes in, of course, will contribute value and will come only to add more value to what we're discussing. Then, if this is the case, and this is the most important point that brings things home in the community, makes people understand a bit how things are unfolding and how you build value. The question is, what was xMoney? What is xMoney, and where is it going, and how is it contributing value to the MultiversX ecosystem, and so on. On this point, I'll also add Greg in a few minutes to add his thoughts, because I think he understands very well what this means and then can also share it. The point is, you can have technology that is superior, which is great. We have that. We're very confident that at every step of the way, we've set a new standard in terms of performance, in terms of security, in terms of scalability, and that we've brought. That technical superiority we've brought in every product that we've released, and we've imbued in everything we've done with xMoney. Now, the question is, what else does xMoney need in order to take off? In order for that value to become larger and larger, like 10x larger, 100x larger, how do you grow it? Because technology is not enough. So then you need business, like a business that operates, that adds value to users, businesses, and customers, and captures value. That is one critical thing. And to accelerate that business, you essentially need allies, partners, investors to actually fuel this type of conversation, and to make sure that you can sustain, have operational costs and so on, can pay the operational costs, can convert the value into something very concrete, and can bring the value back in the ecosystem. So this is just a simple way of stating, is MultiversX invested in xMoney, and does MultiversX want xMoney to succeed? Yes. Does it have a majority say, stake in all the strategic decisions and so on? 100%. Does MultiversX also want xMoney to attract new investors in the most strategic markets of the world, like the US and Asia, Pacific, and so on? 100%. Does Multiverse X also receive something very specific when it brings some partners? Yes. So then the question becomes, what does xMoney, let's say, have to give to some partners to get them in? And what does xMoney get? And in effect, the second question is, what does Multiverse X get? And it's very simple. xMoney, as a company that has fiat licenses and crypto licenses, is one company that is valued at $20 million. The simple question for us is always, how can we get the $20 million to $200 million? Because the same amount we own in xMoney at 20 million is valued at a completely different number when xMoney is valued at 200 million and 500 million and so on. So the conversation today is a bit, one, okay, we validated that MultiversX has a say. Two, we validated that we are aligned and we're pushing this to the hardest points we pushed anything up until this point. Three, what does this mean in practice? And how do we make it meaningful for MultiversX as a community and for everyone else? And here I'll just take another two questions that I've seen raised that are important.
Maybe.
And please, Lucian.
Yes. One point that I would want to add, particularly to payments. I think specifically when we talk about services that we bring, it's good that so maybe just to clarify, amazing that we clear the structure and the elephant in the room. But now on the product side a bit, just going a bit to few thoughts that I have, particularly if we look at the services that we brought already to the multiverse ecosystem and that we want to improve. We have invested tremendous amount of effort and money to actually revamp all the infrastructure underneath. So not only actually making it finally a performing state that is competitive in the market, but then actually assuming that we all done the, so to say, the homework or the groundwork, and we want to dominate the market. If you want, particularly into payments, to dominate or be superior in terms of all the metrics that you are providing to the customers, this is only possible by volumes. And volumes means, in this case, more customers, more partners, how you say it, and more distribution. How do we do that? This is actually why the discussion today is relevant. This is one of the points actually, but happy actually to invite also Greg to
And I
point.
think, Lucian, yeah, exactly what you meant is the perfect thing for why Greg is here and why we're doing the business side and the payment side differently. Because it's one thing to just, let's say, have the best technology, and another thing to put that technology to great use. So maybe, Greg, if I think you only need to unmute yourself, and would love to hear a bit your thoughts on how you see xMoney, previously xMoney, today, and how it will create value and capture value.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Benjamin and Lucian, for inviting me to this talk. First of all, I'd like to say hello to the whole MvX community. I'm super happy that I'm here and I can
Let's see
share a
if it
few thoughts.
works.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. We can
Okay.
hear.
Okay,
And
is it for me or for Greg? Sorry,
oh, I
I think Lucian, yeah, I can hear Greg loud and clear.
Oh, okay, it's on my side. Sorry for that.
no worries.
No problems.
And I have to say that I'm super honored to be here and super happy that I'm given the floor to share a few thoughts. As Benjamin said, we didn't come from the moon, and we just we went crazy and launched tokens here and there. So I'd like to to share with you a bit the why we do that, what is the strategy, and what in what point we are in this journey. So, as Lucian said, a year now, we are actually building the technology, revamping the APIs in xMoney, which it does have the licenses, but the products have to be relevant to the market, and the payments market is very competitive. So you have to have everything agile and scalable. So there is a lot of work that has been done, and of course, in order to do that, you need the money, you need of course resources, and of course you need the right team. So xMoney is building steadily for a year now the API, the infrastructure, and there are some fantastic news that are coming. And I beg you to, stay tuned on this. And of course, is using resources from the market. Also, stay tuned on that. And third is building the best, payments team in the world. Benjamin and Lucian are very much, on the forefront of that, and they wanted, and myself also want to build the best team. Why? Because we want to play in the Champions League. We don't want to play in the local, league here. So, of course, that doesn't explain all the rest, which is why some people got off guard, and I totally understand. So the question is, Greg, why you want to, you went this path down, and the answer is that if you want to dominate the payments, landscape globally, you have to do at least two things. One is you have to have another idea of how payments will perceive and how payments will evolve in the next few years. And of course, payments will never be the same after the blockchain era. So what we need like a reward system where users or consumers and merchants are getting rewarded for what they do. In order to create like a reward system, it's very complex, but it's also the future. And the reason is why. Because every consumer when buys something, he wants to get rewarded. The loyalty systems that the merchants have, and of course the point systems that the banks have. So if you want to talk payments in the 21st century, you have to talk rewards. And why I'm saying rewards and not loyalties? Because a loyalty program is exactly what it says. It's a loyalty program of, say, a shoe, store. It's a loyalty program of a, hairdresser. But how do you connect the two? You need an infrastructure layer that can connect these two rewards or loyalty systems. That's why we call them rewards, because here it comes the infrastructure that we need, or the token infrastructure that we need, in order to create interoperability. Loyalty program A can be spent in merchant B. Loyalty program B can be spent in in store A. So that cannot be called anymore loyalty. It's a reward system, but it's a reward system which is global, first, and secondly, it's interoperable. That's the birth of the need of a new token infrastructure. The next question, of course, would be, okay, fantastic, Greg, but you have this token infrastructure in your mind. Why not build it on MvX? But folks, it's already on MvX, the infrastructure, and it will always be. The reason why we moved to the SUI ecosystem is for two reasons. First, because we want also to create an infrastructure that is compatible with the Move protocol, and the SUI is giving us that. And the second reason is that users and new users that they came into this new wave are also met in that ecosystem. Third, I have to say the following. If we want to make MvX global, we have to think global. If we started, an infrastructure that was based on, acquiring local clients in the Balkans, then we will not ever go global. SUI is very strong in the US and in Asia. That's why we expanded there. That is the reason. And the last thing I have to, add here, because I don't want to monopolize the discussion, is okay, fantastic, Greg, but how this is gonna bring value back to MvX, folks? Here, the game is not a game of dividends; it's a game of network. In order to increase the network, we need consumers, but we also need merchants. And of course, xMoney doesn't have the time to start, acquiring merchants like Stripe, which has 1.6 million merchants, not consumers. Consumers has billions, millions. So the strategy we're following is, I think, the smartest we can do here as a path to a highway. We go after large clients per country, especially marketplaces, and that gives us access to millions of users. Greg, how are we going to acquire all these, folks? Because everybody in the market is doing the same. It's payments, it's commodity. This is where our new reward system comes in, first. And second, this is how we can use then the reward system to lure in these merchants. Why? Because they can co-fund this rewards program with also the treasury that we are creating. So that reduces their cost, increases settlement time to instant, and third, decreases significantly the marginal cost. So where we want to go actually is to create the best and the highest and the biggest payments network in the world. And imagine this as a last line. Imagine only 2% or 5%, I'll make it a bit bigger, of Stripe's, let's say, volume goes and uses XMN, which will be based on 2 chains, fantastic, maybe 3 if we deem necessary here, the communities. And that will depend. I don't say that it's going to be 3. I'm just saying that it's going to be 2 for sure, because we want to tap on these 2 different technologies, move language, and all the rest will be taken care of from the exceptional infrastructure of XMN and the way that is being connected to all the other protocols. But what I'm trying to say is that imagine that 5% of payments go through XMN. They use XMN as a payments infrastructure. Stripe is acquiring billions. Do the math, and you'll understand that what we are trying to do, we are trying to build the next global payment system. Is it easy? No, it's very tough. And of course, regulation is, tying our hands. That's why we already have planned a great, way of expanding to all the other regions through partnerships that, please stay tuned. You'll see that they validate this vision and what me, Lucian, and Benjamin have designed. Thank you.
Greg, thanks a lot for the notes and both big picture view, but then also kind of very specific, concrete way on how xMoney will create value, how it will capture value, and how it does bring the value back. Now, I'm going to translate 2-3 points from what Greg was mentioning, and then Lucian, I'll also let you add some thoughts. First and foremost, I think if the people would have discovered the news about this update in the token side and how it's done in 1 month, and they would have heard these stories before, just one step at a time, bringing them closer to what's being built, how it's being built, why it's necessary, and how we're specifically and concretely doing it, I think that their perception and reaction would have been very, very different. And so this is on us. This is why both the xMoney team separately will have a space to start sharing this type of conversation and take each of the ideas and concerns one by one and address them. Because there is a reasoning and there is a plan and there is a strategy, and that should be shared with the community. And this is the step that we're doing today, as we've heard the feedback. More importantly, I would add a few points that Greg was mentioning and just restate them. One, the story of xMoney as it was and the story of xMoney today, as it is today, with the partners it has and how it tries to attack the world, is very different. It requires a different scale of money to build payments when payments are considered, as Greg has mentioned, commodities. Everyone is doing payments. Like, what will you do? You cannot become rich by just doing the same thing that everyone is doing. You cannot create a network that is rich and shares value with its users by doing the very same thing. You can only create that value and share it with your users in the network if you add something new. And what Greg was mentioning here is that the attack of several countries where we bring in some very large merchants, some very large marketplaces, is the type of strategy that xMoney is doing, very differentiated. And for that, you need treasury. For that, you need some programs. With that, you essentially get other merchants and other users. And with that, you are planted at the heart of the economy, not only in Web3, but actually in several countries. Will this also go into the US market? 100%. Will this also go to Asia? 100%. And the loyalty system is the reward system that sort of introduces this new sticky flywheel between merchants and users is one idea. Coming back a bit to what people are thinking about and actually caring about is, okay, we've heard about this new system. I think this is good. It makes sense. So what about this token? Because we've heard about the new token, and this seems only dilutive in the mind of the community. And I think specifically, one question is, what does this new token mean? And why has it been thought like that? And the point here is this: xMoney, as it is today, is around $20 million as the kind of product and its community and network and so on. So again, the question is, how do we increase this 10x? How do we increase this 100x and so on? Well, one way of doing it is one, whatever you're thinking as a larger pie with other product components that were not part of the xMoney system, um, that needs to still take into account the value that the users have right now, so that as you move forward, the value of the tokens that the users receive is still equivalent to what they have today. And the question is, what's the upside? If I receive the value in terms of, hey, I'm having $1,000, $10,000, or $100,000 today, but I want to receive the same amount. I don't want to receive less value actually on this new conversation. Can I do that? And this is what the team has thought about. And this is why it was framed like that. But then the other point is, suppose you have the payment, the first important sticky milestone, which is the royalty system that connects this Web2 infrastructures in the market. What's next? Well, of course, you've heard the updates on the stablecoin side, right? And on the stablecoin side, you've also probably heard that that can be one of the most lucrative businesses in the world at this point. But to unleash that, of course, you cannot just do that with no money. So the question is, how can you get tens of millions or hundreds of millions to then get to billions of dollars in the stablecoin space as a parallel and complementary module that has not been deployed up until this point? So whatever you have in licenses, you need the type of capital, both in terms of money, but then also capital in terms of team, capital in terms of knowledge that no one has. If you don't have that, you cannot unlock billions in value. It's not like someone will give you billions and you sit around. So that is the step of actually creating more value. So in order to create more value, you need to invest more value. And that means you need some other partners and so on. Maybe last point, and then I'll let, again, Lucian and Greg, if you want to add something on this front, is Suppose that xMoney becomes $1 billion company tomorrow. So how does MultiversX very simply profit from that? How does the ecosystem profit? Well, there's a few ways of looking at this. One is, does xMoney use MultiversX technology? Yes. In what way? Where it can be in several ways. It can use modules specifically to payments. It can use standards from MultiversX. It can just deploy the products to serve the ecosystem and so on. But then the question is specifically on the most valuable point. When merchants and users connect, what do they care about? Well, they care about their business. Can they get more profits? Incidentally, they will hear about MultiversX and maybe the other chains that might be connected, but that will be incidentally, because the only thing that matters to the users is, are they excited? Are they happy? Are they receiving more value than they are paying for? More importantly, is the stablecoin, if there will be a stablecoin or several stablecoins, will they be deployed on MultiversX as well? 100%. There's no discussion and no doubt about that. Lastly, and I think this maybe, Greg, you wanted to add a point on this. Will the token also exist, even the token? Will the token also exist on MultiversX? And Greg, maybe you want to add just one thought on that.
Yes, absolutely. I would like to add the following thought, which is for me, it was, by default, it does exist. So how on earth we would ever think that we'll do something different? The sequence, though, of things that we were doing, it depends on the business side and how we think best we're capturing value by, deploying in X, a network, and then on our own network backstage, and or not backstage, but back to the origins. This is what I mean. Sorry, backstage is not the right phrase here. So, yeah, yeah. Because people might think that there's
Sure.
no front stage and backstage. There's always front stage for Web3. So what I'm
Sure,
trying to
sure,
say is
sure.
that we have a very solid a way of thinking. And the sequencing of things, now they call for this move that we did on Friday. Please, folks, you have to support us. You have to support this move, because the value will come back in MvX, not 10x. I mean, people they just stick on a stupid math that stupid in the sense that they just do the math one dimensionally. When you do math one dimensionally in finance, you lose what's going on. So it's not like I have one, now I have 10. Yes, but what it counts is what this 10 worth, or what this one worth. If we have created already 10x the value that this one had 2 and 3 years ago, and this is due to Benjamin and Lucian investing on this and yourself, and then just the last year amplifying this value, then actually the I don't want to make a statement about the price now, but actually it's a huge discount what you see now. Of course, you will have to get this 10x supply, but you have created already more than 10x. And Benjamin said something very correct. Okay, how on earth we're going to get value out of this? But it's obvious. Don't you we want MvX to be one of the places where people deploy new loyalty programs, new payment schemes, new stable coins? Of course, absolutely. How on earth we're going to get there if ourselves do not create these rails? And that's what Benjamin and Lucian and myself are fighting for. So overall, what I'm trying to say is that the stablecoin and this new rewards token is the means to a purpose, and the goal we are trying to achieve is for the MVS community and of course the xMoney to be relevant to the next big game of payments. This is what you have to keep on your mind, and I beg and I call all of you to support us.
Thank you. Please, Lucian.
I'll
Please.
jump in and just restate now again. I think the one of the ideas with which we started the discussion. So again, if Stripe has Temple and the Web2 game, xMoney should and will have the Web3 game. We will partner with whoever needs in in this industry to make sure that xMoney succeeds. And this is not an optional thing. This is the only way forward for us for this kind of technology in order to succeed and be integrated worldwide.
And maybe restating this point a bit, Lucian, I think one of the biggest lessons for us with MultiversX, with the different products we've built and so on, is this. It's very simple. That alone, you may be the most brilliant in the world. Alone, you can only go so far. With the right allies, you can conquer markets in a time that actually would take you another 5 years to make the same move and to get the same credibility and to get the same people, users, businesses on board. So, what we are essentially buying here, what we're unlocking and thinking through, and we want you to think through with us, is this. We could do everything ourselves. The question is, what time does it take? What investment does it take? What resources does it take beyond money? And then how do we unlock those? Because someone needs to put them in. And there's in no pocket is there a kind of unlimited amount. So the question is much more tangible probably for the community. And with this, I'm almost coming to a kind of conclusion where we address maybe one or two other questions, and then we'll open up a bit with a few people from the community. This, if we own, if MultiversX owns majority in this play, has invested heavily, you guys that have been here, both from UTK community and just MultiversX, have been here for years. You've been here because this is the type of vision that you believed in. You've also believed and understood that over time, we'll have to always make the right decision. Even if it's hard, the most important point is to come with some clear context, share it with you, and then find the best decisions together. This is why we're here, and this is why we're having the conversations right now. And the most important actionable points are this. To get and attack markets where we've not been as present, the question is, can we also take allies that are aligned with us on a direction that can also pay in addition to being on board, that can also pay, that we can get liquidity out of, that we can get some new users out of, and with which we can be aligned to attack some bigger challenge. Because in that way, it becomes something extremely valuable for MvX, and it becomes something extremely valuable for xMoney and beyond. So I think one, we definitely, just approaching the conversation, have clarified the idea of ownership, that MvX is there and will always have at the heart of the conversation expansion and growth for MvX as well, and that's what the network does. Second, we've offered some thoughts on the ideas related to the token metrics, and here I will also share that the team, the xMoney team separately, is looking at all the feedback and will come with some updates and will specifically tackle the clear points that you've shared, and so on. And then lastly, maybe to bring it home, you've also heard a bit what it means to produce value in the real world, not only in the crypto world. Um, Namely, if we discuss about the most important steps that the crypto world have discovered, is that you need real world revenue to double down on the value that you have with your community, with your tokens, with your ecosystem and network. That at the end of the day, just as you see, for instance, with Hyperliquid, that you see with maybe other ecosystems, the value of what they're doing, the value of what everyone is looking for right now, for instance, buybacks with real money. The question is, we all want buybacks, right? let me state it very clear. We all want buybacks. The question is with what money? How do we make money? How do we produce value so that we can bring that value then back and double down on the value of the network, double down on the value of the token? The way to produce that is obviously offer the services that are competitive in the market, make them differentiated and very, very valuable, get more users, more merchants, and a larger network to use your services. If you get that, you will get money. What do you do with that money? Well, you double down on the growth of the underlying ecosystem and just move things forward. But I'm coming to a kind of conclusion specifically on what I think were some of the most important nerve points. I'm curious, Lucian, if you want to add something specific, perhaps on the UTK community, just a bit, and then we'll perhaps take some questions from a few people in the community.
I think no. Generally speaking, the entire discussion is for MultiversX and xMoney, and xMoney is UTK and now XMN. Now that's I think part of the entire discussion. I think again the path forward, hopefully post this discussion, makes a lot more sense, and it does bring a bit of clarity on what and how we're gonna make xMoney succeed and how we're gonna make everybody align, and align in the sense of success and value brought home. That's it. I'm happy actually to take some of the conversations or the questions.
Yes. So perhaps let's see, maybe Mihai, I think Mihai, the young Padawan, since he wrote the document. Maybe Mihai, I'll invite you perhaps, or let me. Did you send an invite? Invite you to speak. Please share maybe some of your thoughts and specifically one or two questions that you believe might be relevant to the conversation. Let me know if it works. Yes, it should work now, Mihai. Yes, please.
Hi guys. Hey Greg. Yeah, great space. But should I start with the hard questions, or let's say with the summaries of the questions? Because I am in between the chats and people, I see they understood, but they are still, how to say, they understand the first minute and they got lost the next 5 minutes, and then they need to restate the first minute, something like that. So
Sure. Please maybe state 1, 2, 3 thoughts that you had and you think you maybe you see in this, and then feel free to state 1, 2, 3 questions that you think are both the heart of the matter and then the things that bring the value very clear.
Yeah, for me, I think you answered to most of that article questions. Let's do a game where I put the same question and you reply with yes or no, even if you already replied with I would say a yes on all of them, but it was a long yes. So I think everyone already know the questions. I will just say why I think this happened is my first question about the SUI thing, and I say this because it's an investment. So it's a yes. Did they invest because they believe that you guys have the best stablecoin infrastructure behind the scenes, that it's probably value super high? Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I cannot. Mihai is taking all the alpha out of the system, but I will not say no. I cannot say no.
Cool. Can we all agree that the stable coins will be launched for free? Because I saw this comment somewhere, like it will charge us to launch the stable coins on MvX, and I was like, come on, how the fuck that works? Like, will the stable coins be for free launch on MvX? Yes.
I'm not sure what for free means, but they will be launched on MvX and will not charge for the integration 100%.
Yeah, that was the thing. Will all the stable coins be only on SUI? No, we just answered to that. Are you guys
Thank you,
scammers?
Mihai.
I don't think. Cool. So we passed through this. I would point something else that I picked from the conversation with Greg and you about how the value can come back. And I think people should also understand that the value can be back. Let's say you launch the stable coins and everyone is happy and we have them, but if we don't have actual products where people could use these stable coins, they will just go, let's say, to Sui. They will use it there, or they will go to Ethereum or wherever the third chain might be, if there might be a third chain, might be going there. So we have to remain competitive in terms of product also on our chain, especially on DeFi and so on, because once you have the merchants that you guys are, targeting to attract, they might stay into the stable coins and they would want the yield, they would want something. And I think this is something about the flywheel that we are going to discuss later as well. They need to deploy the stable coins that they receive from the merchant and so on, from selling of their products. Like the entire system, it's kind of shifting where they don't just store it in the bank, they will store it on chain because they have a stable coin and maybe they want to get a 3% yield on that stable coin. So they will have to decide, where do they put it? Do they put it on Sui? Do they put it on MvX? Do they put it on, all of this? And that's where I guess our community, the devs and people, should align that we need to have better products than others. Which in fact I believe we do have. If we are going, I'm not going to attack Sui, but I would be very, 100% accurate. I did check to deploy our lending there. I checked who is there the biggest, and the UIs are not that great. It doesn't talk like normal Web2 people language. It's still very techy. So I think MvX has a shot at that, as we ever had, with the security, with guardians and everything. Is like, if you are going to present all this on a table when people are in, they will definitely have to choose us. So that's one point how the value I think can come back through deployments on our own products, dexes, landings, and so on. So tell me if it's wrong. Tell me what you think about this. Is this correct?
Benjamin, can I add
Please,
something what
please,
Mihai said?
please, Greg.
Yeah, Mihai, you're spot on. And in order to do that, we have to open the door. I mean, Sui has 2 billion, TVL. I mean, a huge DeFi. And you're right. I mean, most of the applications there, to be honest, I was, the MD in the Sui Foundation when we were assessing them, they're crap. So if you don't have the door open for people to look for better solutions, and these better solutions we hope to be in MvX, UX environments and applications and everything, then how on earth, to make people aware that this exists? So that's exactly what we're trying to do. Because there are two ways. People think that, everybody's going to move there. No. We also open the door for the other way around. And you pinned it down very, very correctly. That's exactly the point.
Yeah, I do see the door opening from 2 months ago from GitHub, because I was telling to people about that bridge stuff. It's like nothing that we do at Soxno, it's random. Like we announced a Sui login months ago. We announced many things that right now you could connect with Sui on our chain. Why? Because we knew this bridge will come and I would be able to be something like, hey guys, we do offer 10% on stablecoins. Don't you want to migrate in one click from there to here? And they will also do the same, but they will have to provide better than us or have a better thing than us, or I don't know, something like that. So I do encourage everyone to, stay ahead of the curve and see somehow this picture a bit, open.
Yes, and maybe to double down on the simple end game here. Whenever something new happens, you have two ways to approach the situation. One is to get fearful and say, no, we need to stay away, we need to stay back, we need to not engage, they're going to steal this from us and do this other thing. Or you can you can attack. And attack usually is the best type of defense. When you have better products, when you have better UX, when you have the security and so on, then you're not fearful, because there's nothing to be fearful about. At the end of the day, there's an open marketplace out there, and we all want users. If we can get more users by sort of gaining some validation and some conversations in the right kind of circles, what we discover is that in the US, as everywhere in the world, there are small networks of people that if you're not in those networks, you don't exist. The chain doesn't exist.
Okay, I
How
have
do
a
you
question
not
for
go
this. I
from
mean, it's
zero
not
to conquer the market? Yeah. No, but I'm
yeah, not a question,
just
but
closing
let's
the
say
point. So an observation,
my
yes.
internet is
The point
bad.
is not how do you go from zero to, hey, we've conquered the market? No, let's be pragmatic. What's a step that connects us to someone in the US that has great capital, um, that has a great number of users in the US at least and Asia, and can make some of that flow bidirectionally? That's not the end game. That's just one step. And only if you have great technology, great UX, and you're sure that this will work, do you kind of dare to actually make a deal and start this conversation. Because then the next deal will just make it even more competitive, and the next deal even more competitive. So the point is just, and with this I'm stopping. The point is, if xMoney has this edge and MultiversX has this edge in xMoney, how do we use this as the productive Trojan horse, where it's actually offering great value to the different users, people, merchants, and it also piggybacks, it also leverages some of the communities from which we can learn a lot in terms of what they're doing right and what we can do right. Stopping a bit, maybe Mihai, and then I'll invite also Dr. X a bit to take another question, and maybe a few other people.
To summarize what you just said is like this: due to the partnership, friendship with Sui, we could hopefully have for the first time a stable coin on both chains that would be listed on multiple checks. And for the first time, the community will have an answer to that question: when I can send USDC from the checks to my Eridu wallet.
Imagine how that would be, right?
Yes.
Imagine how that would be.
And
because that requires a different type of alignment, both with the exchanges and the networks.
Yeah, and due to the fact that Sui, as you said, is powerful in terms of capital and network, and you already did all the work to have a CDT standard on Binance, Coinbase, and everything for them to, if they have a good word and the synchronize between you, Sui together, they would launch it together because, it works to be flexible between the chains, and the checks is already have the integration with you and Sui to transfer the tokens. It's just that it's another value and conversation when you have the two networks aligned together on the same currency, stable coin, and connections, let's say.
100%. 100%.
That's all, I guess.
Thank you, Mihai. I'll invite Dr. X to ask some question and maybe share some thoughts. I'll only share this, by the way, and I'll share this at the end as well. Imagine that this is the first conversation we're having, not the last. And there will be several steps and conversations that Greg and the xMoney team and we together just share with you. And we'll translate this every step of the way. This is not done this is the conclusion. This should be treated as the first step. And from here, we're taking the conversation onwards and clarifying each of the points with you. Please, Dr. X.
Hello. So the community still wonders a lot about how does the move and the new xMoney benefit EGLD. And you mentioned stable coins and buybacks. Can you confirm that you will use part of the revenues from merchant and stable coins to put extra buy pressure on EGLD?
I think this is a very hardcore, let's say, thing that for legal reasons I cannot answer in a direct way.
Let me help with
Please.
that. Let me help with that. So
yes,
for the part where the stake that MultiversX Foundation holds into xMoney, particularly to that, whenever that can be translated into liquidity, yes, that's the intention. to make EGLD grow.
Yes.
Let me
Yes.
simplify. I think this is straightforward. This is the only point why I think MultiversX Foundation also invests in the ecosystem. In any kind of investment that we do, it's either for infrastructure growth, development, adding utility, extending and expanding the reach of the network, and then also driving back direct value in a monetary way to the budget or the treasury of the foundation to make things work. I think this is no magic in it, and happy to clarify that. I think I think this is not obvious at all, actually, how things, but it's good to be stated and also delimited in such a way that it's clear for everybody.
So it's basically a yes. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I have another one. By the way, these are all community questions and things that people are not so cleared on. Now, I have one for Greg. Greg, you mentioned that part of the xMoney infrastructure, or whole of it, is on MvX, excluding UTK and smart contracts. What exactly is that infrastructure on MvX?
What has to be and is related to Web3, it's on MvX. All the rest is actually on other systems that the market is using. And actually, what we did in the last 8 months in record time, we switched our acquiring processor and our issuing processor. People that are in payments understand that this is a pain that can last 2 years. So we switched processors into two of the best solutions in the world in just 3 months. So this is what I meant. I'm sorry if I misled someone.
Okay. And I will end with some sort of a question. I don't know if this is a question, but I think the community really needs to hear this from you. Are you willing to fight by all means, by any means, to get back the community support and trust and fight for the community and the holders of eGold and UTK?
I'll jump
I
in.
think
I'll jump
this
in.
is why we're here.
Yes.
This is why we're here.
Is that
Otherwise, we would not
is that
have.
a question for me?
Yes, please. You can say, let's do all of us. You can see how we are fighting even among each others. Please, Lucian, and maybe
Folks,
Greg, and then myself. Yes.
I will just answer with what Benjamin said. Folks, we have not just invested here our time, effort, and resources. We have invested our lives. I thought that I had the community already. I jumped out of the window when I realized that we had done some let's say not that optimal communication in terms of what we're trying to do and where we're going, where we stand now, and why we had to do this stop on Friday in this long journey that we have pertained for the MvX community. Of course, it's by no question. That's why we're here and we're fighting every day. I grow more white hair than I had. So and I hope I'll grow more because it shows how much I want to fight.
Lucian is also growing white.
I'm
Please,
the
Lucian,
meme.
share your thoughts on the.
I'm the guy with the meme. I think I'm just 20, and it's all fine. I'm not sure how the guy is called, actually, the one that is very old and age already, and just says that is a few years in crypto. But no, going back to the community again, I think the only point that makes sense for us is actually, and why we initiate the discussion to clarify these points and show that I think things are aligned, and it's good that whenever this kind of questions arise, that they are being answered, brought to us, pushed, and also clarified immediately.
And what I will share, and then we'll take some more questions again, one by one, just to be able to maybe answer another few ones. Is this? first and foremost, you can question everything else, but not this. Like when someone puts their life on the matter, invests literally everything, and does this for years, that's the only thing you cannot question. So we're not only fully invested and going all in, but we're the ones that feel the pain sometimes, although it may not look like that, the most. When we're going down, where something is not working and so on, we very much feel your frustration, thoughts, and feedback, and we're here. And we're not stating that, we are here with you and having this conversation. So this type of conversations we'll have, and we'll attack more and more and more every step of the way, both proactively to share the bigger points, the bigger vision, and whenever it's needed to just clarify things. We've been through super hard times together, and those do not just disappear. Those stay with us, and those remind you that whenever the hard times come, we're here to clarify, to make sure that we're on the same page, and then push forward as hard as possible, like harder than ever, because how we started the conversation. We do believe this is a massive step potentially for MvX and for xMoney, and we just also do believe that there it was not with good justice that let's say things have been communicated to the community, and we are here to close that gap, to make sure that we address the points, take the ones that the team needs to follow up on home, and then come back to attack them and find the best solutions. Stopping here, and I think we have another person who is Divix, and then I'll probably invite one or two others as well. Please.
Hey guys, thanks for. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, please.
Perfect. Thanks for inviting me up. And I'm basically going to give you a question that's more related to the community and investors' perspective here. I think the initial announcement is very good in theory for what we want to see for the platform as a whole and for the ecosystem in terms of growth. It definitely puts everyone in a position here to be exposed to a lot more users and a lot more future investment. I completely agree there. The main problem with the communication and the way the community took this is in terms of how the conversion rate is occurring. Because I understand even some of the points you've made earlier when you say dilution is in the user's mind or in the investor's mind, but I don't agree with that. Dilution is a very core basic economic principle. If you are investing in a token or an asset, and when that product that you've invested in is now hitting a new user base, if you're diluted 10 to 30x, that really just means that you stand to gain 10 to 30x less appreciation as that asset grows or as the ecosystem grows in use. And I think that's really what the core problem is with how the community has taken this, because you have UTK investors who have been in the space for a very long time, years, and they have funded the growth of xMoney throughout this entire time frame. In any other situation as an investor, you would expect that if your product is now growing to a larger user base, the investors who funded that should stand to benefit substantially. They shouldn't be diluted 30x or 10x and then stand to only gain 3% if the new asset goes up 30%. So I think that's really the key in terms of what this may mean for growth of the ecosystem as a whole. I'm on board. I think it makes perfect sense to tap a new user base. That's 100% the way to go. But I don't think that the conversion rate is translating well to the community. In just economic principles, it doesn't make a lot of sense to, someone who's been invested in an asset. And even in terms of growth, I mean, if you are a part of that product from the beginning, you want to be a part of that product's growth. You don't want a 30% gain to only mean 0.3 to 3% for you. So that's the only thing I'd like some feedback on, and how we are valuing the investors who really put in their hard-earned money in the early stages of the xMoney product.
100%. And to do this, I'll invite Greg, who incidentally is
Sure.
a PhD in economics and a professor of economics, just as you said, to add some simple economic terms of how something is done at different stages and how it can make sense. Because I very much agree. Please.
Yes, and thank you for that question. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. But your rationale is based on a fundamental assumption that in our case it's not true. The fundamental assumption that you make is that you make an initial investment and then the project has a trajectory that it's a yardstick, which is not true in our case. What we are facing here, and the decision we had to make with Benjamin and Lucian, is that if we don't take this step and we don't bring in new investors, and of course we don't create like all this new infrastructure, actually the project will go south, which means that this 1 to 30 or 1 to 10, 1 to 30, it's again a matter of how we calculate things. So what you do in the yes, you have you imagine that you had exactly the same trajectory and somebody is giving you 10 less chances to reap the benefit of that. It's not like that. Actually what we do is we retracted the project, so you get the initial return you would have gotten if you are still invested from the beginning, because otherwise you would get zero. So that's my answer here. So we have to think that the fundamentals are changing as well as we move on in the economy. The fundamentals, nobody has written a check that somebody that bought a UTK 2 years ago, he wrote, or no, not 2 years but 5 years ago, nobody wrote him a check that this project will go to to conquer the world and will acquire 1 billion. That's not the case. That's
And
why we
maybe
had to
maybe to
restructure.
add, yes, maybe to add add one point here to translate what Greg is mentioning. There's 2 points. People have expectations, and when they invest based on their expectations. They look at some things and so on. What Greg is mentioning here is that usually there are three outcomes to take into account. One, suppose you reach the point that you initially set. That may mean some value, and you can make some expectation of what value that may mean, how that can be conquered, how that can be achieved. Suppose that xMoney or UTK specifically starts at X and then goes 5X or 10X or whatever, and then it reaches a certain point. Now, there's an alternative scenario where you need, for what you're trying to do, you need 10X more capital, 100X more capital. You need to change the entire product, you need to change the team, and you need to make those changes. Unless you make those changes, you will either shrink and go in the wrong direction and will have to either close or do some sell the company, do some other stuff, or you need to essentially reposition everything you're doing and try to go to the next level by taking a kind of different valuation of the company, by finding a better ground, because at the end of the day, you do want to attack the problem. So in reality, the conversation is not as simple, especially when you're doing a kind of startup like xMoney in terms of 5 or 10 years cycles, and you're trying to manage the situation in a very, very proactive way. And that this is just a very, let's say, direct and transparent view on at least how the situation looks when you're having the hard conversations with anyone that looks at the technology, that looks at the product, and that looks at the potential trajectory. Curious if this has added some more clarity on the question.
It adds a bit of clarity. I understand the concept of revaluation when a product changes, but it still doesn't address the initial concern of the core investors whose funding helped build the product losing an ownership stake as that product grows in a new ecosystem. I mean, I've been a venture capitalist in businesses before. And when I've done this, never in my life have I been told that now this product that you helped fund is growing to a new user base and we're going to cut your ownership stake by 10 to 30x. It's just not something that you see. So even in this case, you have a new token that's being created for the same product with now a different let's say, decision tree of potential applications and potential uses, right? The product itself is evolving, but the initial investors, the money they put in, they are just standing to gain less as that product grows. So this is just foundational economics. And Greg, you understand this, you're a PhD. It's a very simple investment principle. If you are investing in a business or investing in a product, you do not expect your ownership stake in that product to decrease when the product itself is going to hit a new user base.
Have
The one point I think,
Yeah, but
because
sorry,
maybe one
one
point, and then
second.
I'll invite you,
One
Lucian and
point,
Greg.
because
The point is,
yes,
I think
just one
here
point.
to just to add one point, have you invested in any product or company that has closed the doors?
Yes, where I've lost my initial seed capital, I 100% have.
Okay.
I've invested in growth too, and I've taken a revaluation, but I've never taken a revaluation of 10 to 30x. We're talking a substantial revaluation in initial investment. I mean, if you're taking a 2x revaluation, that's reasonable, but 10 to 30x is incredibly high.
But are you unhappy with the revaluation if it happens, or if it is true? Because if it's true, what's the problem?
Well, the problem is that the investor.
First, second, you're talking in terms of private equity, which is not the case here. Somebody bought a token on a network, and it was promised certain functions and utilities with the token. I mean, it's not like a equity holding. It's completely different. And third, there is an emissions plan. The emissions plan is actually, we're restricting supply, because we will have only 5% in circulation upon launch. So, I mean, the economics are completely different than what you have in mind in terms of doing a private equity investment and then getting diluted from just reshaping the product. It's not like that. We're not reshaping the product. We are doing that, but also we are bringing users and another, and 100x value into this project. If we were not revaluating, then how on earth we're going to bring in the new investors? That's exactly how things are happening in the in the world when things have to change, and then you have to restructure yourself in some way. So I don't know if there is another way. Happy to discuss with you in privately how we could do that. I mean, I'm very open, but in my humble opinion, there was no other way we could do that.
I completely understand the difference between private equity, and I understand that this is not the same as an equity investment it doesn't have the same equity protections. I completely get that. The similarities correlate when you're utilizing that equity or you're utilizing that investment in order to build the platform, right? It's treated as quasi-equity by the investor, right? And this is a problem with DeFi as a whole. There's a reason that every utility token in this entire industry has trended to zero. It's mainly because of what ends up happening with the platform and the risk that they take on. Your investors are taking on all the risk, right? These are the investors who are funding the future growth, development, and marketing of the xMoney platform, even when it merges with Sui. But when that happens, shouldn't they be at least privy to a better percentage of the value gained? Right? You don't have to give the.
You're absolutely right, Mark. I totally agree with what you're saying. Totally agree with you. And believe me, there was no other way to create and restructure that, and bring in these new investors, because our main concern with Benjamin and Lucian was to protect the initial investment and make it worth more. But at the same time, we had to figure out a way of how to use this Web3, as you said, plasma, in order to filter in funds that we needed in the Web 2 world. But in principle, I agree with you on this caveat.
Yes, maybe one clarifying one point, because I think this is taken out of context very much to a specific market and specific case of products. So I think, generally speaking, if we look at any kind of investment structure or vehicle, whenever, and this is just putting into one question at a time, when you actually have some structure in place and you take new investment, what happened to the current investors? And pausing here for one question for the answer.
Oh, for me. So
yes, just in simple term, just one sentence, please. What happens when there is a finite supply of something, for example, and you take more investment to that?
Well, normally the investors who already own a percentage stake in that would see value appreciation as the new round of funding comes in.
If the value theoretically is superior, yes, that is correct. And then also at the same time, do they see also dilution?
It depends. Now, yes, the answer is yes, Lucian. They
Thank
would
you.
see
Thank you.
dilution, but
Thank you.
that dilution, nowhere in my financial experience have I ever seen it to be anywhere close to 10 to 30x. Where we're talking
Depends on the
massive numbers
amount.
here.
Exactly. And now we're getting to the second point. Now, in case of, for example, expansion of a company, where you basically revamp the entire technical stack and the market category that the company is being playing, how do you market this in?
Well, the way that I
Particular
would
to
do
that.
it
Now,
is
yes.
the way that I would do it from a perspective as a product owner or a company owner is by making sure that my investors have a proper value proposition, right? The value proposition here, unfortunately, though, is based on the assumption of growth, not the definitive proof of growth. What you're doing is exposing the product to a new user base, and we now have a larger probability of usage of the platform as it grows. But is that probability worth a 10 to 30x dilution of your current investment? You're still
Let's look.
asking all the investors to accept all the risk.
So look, depends on the perspective, and I'm closing with this statement. So look, does it make sense, and do you feel reasonable that, for example, a stablecoin company is trading at 140x EBITDA currently, and then do you see this reasonable in any way to be rationalized prior to happening that? Would you have, from your perspective, would you have been able to bet on and see that, hey, there's a delta compared to anything that you have known in this space and rationalize to model to whatever the new models of the markets or the products is actually showing us today? Can you, and this is, I think, just an open...
But maybe just a point translating it, and I think on here it's even fine to follow up with some points, and as Greg was mentioning, to discuss them and hear some of your thoughts and so on. But a good way of just thinking about it is, suppose you have a payments processor, which is one thing, you value that at X, then you're going to do something that is completely different on a kind of orders of magnitude scale of requirements in capital, requirements in resources, and so on. And you can either do this in a separate company, completely separate, which is fine, and so on, or you can say, no, we've started this, we don't want to start another company, and to do this, that will imply a different type of valuation based on what this company is doing and this other company is doing. And it will still be aligned. And at the end of the day, I want to give the best chance, the best probability, as you said, to the investors and to the people that have been on this journey and so on. And also have a chance, because if I don't have the resources and I don't have the capital and I don't have the people and so on, then I'm not even giving myself or the investors or the people a chance to actually play in that game that really matters. So the situation is not simple. I very much agree with you. It's not black and white. And it is a proposition that needs to weigh in what the product has, and then what the product doesn't have, and then what does it actually need. Because once you paper down all the things that it needs and you need to achieve to compete in this other arena, you immediately see that the scale of resources required to only have a chance, not to win, to only have a chance, is so drastically different than that you're almost taken out of the table before starting the conversation. And maybe this only gives you a bit of an intuition of at least why we're having the conversation, because I very much agree on the where you're coming from, right?
I completely understand what you're saying, and everything that everyone has said here made a lot of sense, right? And I want to preface my last point here with the fact that I completely agree with the trajectory of where this is going, but the economics of the way that it's playing out to the community is just something that seems like a massive risk addition without the correlating reward for that risk. So my recommendation would be this: in order to address those concerns, what I would like to see as an investor and as someone who can kind of educate the community
Sure.
on the economics of
Sure.
it would be
Sure.
something to lower the risk for the investor. What I don't like is
Sure,
taking
sure,
a
sure,
30x
sure, sure,
dilution
sure,
with a
sure,
6-month lock
sure.
period, right? When you do that, you're effectively
Ca- ca-
forcing the investor to take on massive risk in that 6 months
Sure.
without any guarantee of performance. So the risk should be less, right? The dilution should correlate with risk percentage. If the more you're being diluted, the less risk you should have. You shouldn't be taking on more risk for more dilution. So maybe that dynamic can be addressed a bit, and I think that would help the community. And I don't know what the true EBITDA is on the background of the product, so I can't really speak to the valuation. I just have trust that that's
Sure,
being
sure, sure.
handled properly internally.
Greg, you wanted to add
That's a
something,
pretty
probably.
Yeah, that's a great point, though, and I have to admit that the way we faced this is that either leave 100% risk of default to the equity holder, the initial one, or actually lower it by bringing in new equity. And so the way that we have reduced the risk to the initial investor is by bringing in more equity that is actually commingling with the existing one, and gives the opportunity to the project to survive and thrive. That's how we thought about it. But again, we can talk on the side on that.
I do think the points that you've made are relevant and true, and this is why we're having the conversation, because I think in some next conversations that the xMoney team will have, and Greg with the team will discuss, will also come with some very specific and more concrete explanations that take this in a kind of step-by-step basis. Because that at least opens up the discussion, right? We are here to have this open conversation and hear the feedback, because if there's a better solution, we want a better solution, right? And that's I need to stress this, because we very much appreciate this type of feedback, and we believe that this can surface the gaps in what maybe is expressed and not clear, and address the things that the community and the investors and the people that have been with us care most about, because we care about them and want to bring them to the best light possible.
I love the approach. Just wanted to say that love this kind of discussions, topics, but also especially when they end up with proposals at the end. This
recommendation, suggestion.
Yes. This is literally music. Like this is how we encourage pretty much everybody to interact. I think it's normal that each of us as humankind have a different approach, different perspective, different understanding, and it might not be obvious actually for the other one as a default option that whatever I see or you see, the other one should see it natively. And if it is brought up in the right way, things tend to improve. At least this is how we got this human species here so far.
Thank you all. I definitely appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Divix. Thank you. Maybe Robert, I think maybe we'll take one other question, but before Robert, if you have one question or want to add some thoughts.
Just one thought, because this space was extremely, like, it's magically good. I love it. Congrats everyone on this and the questions and everything. So one of the thoughts is about Web3 was always about, should have been about this kind of permissionless open building. And then everybody started to build their own walls as big as the sky and isolate themselves from others. Let's change that. And I think that through xMoney, this is one of the first steps we can actually take in this sense. So, and you see all the bridges, and like from last year, the things about the sovereign chains, about really creating a composable future. Because if we are not composable, then Tempo and the others will come with their corporate chains, and they will extract all the value out of the ecosystem, of all the Web3 ecosystem. So that's my 2 cents. Let's keep building.
So what you're saying, we should integrate all the chains into xMoney. Is that correct, Robert?
All the change. Yeah.
And the guest be
all the
Bobber.
chains. So sorry, Mihai.
Yeah.
Sorry
And the
again.
guest to be Bobber.
Yes, that as well.
Let's see if maybe DB some thoughts. Let me see. Should we just one invite? If you want to add a thought or a question or something like that. I've just,
DB
if
is
you
a
can hear us.
listener. He's not a
Yeah,
speaker.
I've requested. By the way, maybe he's not there. One second. So I see that there's.
By the way, I think the 1 hour was a good hour. I think we're getting close to the second hour, but happy to maybe whatever you decide. If you think there's more to be answered in this session, happy to do so.
Yeah. So the point maybe to briefly touch on it would be this. We've started with this very simple idea that first, we are here to have a conversation with the MultiversX community and discuss and approach things from the MultiversX community side and see where they go, if they make sense, what's the idea with them, and take it simply one step at a time so that people can reason through the ideas, make their own mind about them, and so on. And we're just restating that we're here and we're going to not only push through this, but make this a great move for MultiversX. This is why we've done the move, but then now we'll also treat this as almost a kind of starting step from which we take another subject and another subject and another subject, as Greg was mentioning them, to just make these great milestones meaningful, make them exciting, because they are exciting. And in with a, let's say, if we're not communicating them correctly and giving the context to the community, sometimes that the most exciting thing can become an unexciting thing. So this is why we're here, and we've done this conversation. Maybe the last point, I'll let DB, if you want to add some thoughts or a question.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me up. Sorry, I was changing connection. I was in and out, so
No problem.
that's why I couldn't come
No
up
problem.
earlier.
No problem.
But yeah, so far I think this has been a great conversation. Lots more clarity. It's a great start. Obviously, there's a lot to go, and I know it's asked often, and I don't need to say this, but I'm going to say it. I'm not paid by these guys. I'm not paid by MultiversX or the foundation or the labs or any of this stuff. I'm just an investor. I'm a believer. I'm a supporter, and I'm part of the community. I'm with you guys. There are days that I feel bipolar supporting this project. It's true. Sometimes I'm in love with it. Other days I want to bash my head against the wall. I'm with you guys, but this is what these spaces are about. And I think we've gotten some pretty good clarity out of it. Some straightforward stuff. Like Lucian mentioned in the beginning, that they're more invested now than they were before. That's a question I know a lot of people have asked. The ownership in the models, xMoney, they own the majority of it. That's the clarity that I know I've been seeking, and I know many of you have been seeking. So I think that's a great start. There's still obviously a lot more, and some of the things, and DivX, man, geez, you need to come on X Spaces more, and you need to be up here more. That hear your back and forth with them was just absolutely amazing. And I love hearing how you present things. And you're obviously incredibly knowledgeable about this stuff, which is so important to have you join these conversations. So I love it. Congrats on that. Good job.
Thank you.
And I still have questions as well about the valuation. And I guess one quick question I have is this model open for revamp? Or is it set in stone, yes or no, this is going to happen right now?
So two points I'll mention. One, there are days where we ourselves bash our heads against the wall. So we very much understand the frustration. You can imagine that we're traveling the world in between like cars and planes and so on, and we're pushing on some other thing that is maybe interesting, exciting, and then fires come up, and something that should have been good and exciting becomes this like fire that brings everyone down. And of course, that's the last thing we need. And after we bash our head against the wall, we say, let's do a shower and let's have this conversation, because it's the only way that we actually reestablish the connection and have the sensible, simple conversations that sometimes just move the mountains. They seem the most difficult ones, but actually being there and being present and having these conversations with you guys, this is what then brings feedback, brings insights, and brings even more clarity to us with respect to what has worked and what has not worked, and maybe what needs further clarity. And so, even to your second question, this is why we're having the conversation, because feedback is critical. And because based on this, we'll definitely add some more updates, nuances, clarifications, and even modifications. This is why the feedback is always useful, because without it, will not make the progress we actually want together.
Benjamin, can I add something?
Please, Greg.
And to be honest, very honest, I mean, if you talk payments and you don't plan 3 years ahead, which eventually becomes a 5 years plan, then you're not serious. So we have as regards that part, we do have a very solid, plan, and that's why we've, revamped the infrastructure and we rebuild the team. So we make sure that we walk that plan, and we do what the things we have to do, as I said, for the 3 years, but always comes to the 5 years. When I sold my previous payments, infrastructure in 2022. Actually, it was a bit more. We are planning for 3 years, and then it took us 7 years. But having said that, being serious in payments, and you want to play, as Benjamin Lucian said, in the global scale, you have to plan at least for 3 years.
I'll also add one point. Maybe giving it a so it's giving how should I say this without saying it?
Mihai and Dr. Rex then I'll also add
I
some
just
thoughts.
want to say maybe give it a bit of space for at least few days. We're not done with
Yeah.
what
The job is not done here.
the job exactly.
The work is not done with these spaces. So give it some space for the team to share some of the milestones, some of the reasoning and thoughts, the xMoney team, and then come with some ideas and feedback and so on. And it will definitely, like, this is what the team is looking for. And we are here to help guide this type of conversation and filter it. Mihai and maybe Dr. X. Sorry, Lucian, I went over you. Maybe you wanted
That's
to
fine.
say something before, and then Mihai and Dr. X.
You already covered what I wanted to say. Giving
Thank
it a
you.
bit of space.
Thank you.
I will let Dr. X first because I had a good one for closing, so I want to close it after.
Sure.
Yeah, so
Mihai is
I'm very
almost
curious.
moderating. Sorry, Andrew.
His own. Mihai has his own spaces inside the spaces. Please, Dr. X.
Yeah, so I think this whole thing makes as much sense as it can at this point. A first announcement. As you guys can see, you have a lot of eyes on you. The community waked up, and in my opinion, this can be used to start the flywheel for xMoney and even eGold if it's played correctly. So I really think that when you share the whole plan and everything, things will make a lot more sense, and we will see what SUI part is, we will see what MvX part is, we will see stable coins and everything. But I think you clarified pretty well, and you made the most sense as it can be at this point. So I hope the community takes these answers well. And of course, in tomorrow's spaces with xMoney and Greg, we will have a more focused questions on xMoney about guilds and UTK holders and all that. But I will leave these questions for tomorrow.
Awesome. Mihai?
Nice. Yeah, so I have 2 points, and the last one is, if you want to close after that, fine. If not, fine. So the first one is just to realign everyone why you guys are betting all your life and money on MvX and so on, is that I want to say that you both, and me included, and core team own more eGold than SUI. So from let's say if everyone want to align in terms of money and growth, we are the most aligned people in terms of we want eGold to go up, right? So that's the first. And the second one, for everyone saying that we are bashing our heads to the wall, I want to just make it clear inside of the house, but if you do it outside, say that you are from Solana.
I love that.
Uh, definitely. So I invite you to bash your head against the wall with us in this in this in this process,
I do it every
because
day.
The morning
yes,
ritual.
the more we are
Luci,
the more we are bashing,
we do not
the
have a
more progress
morning.
we'll do.
We do not have a morning routine. There are times when I talk with Benny at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And before I
It's
go to
crazy.
sleep, not when I wake up at 6.
Yeah. So, guys, again, very much appreciate the thoughts, very much appreciate the feedback, very much appreciate the conversation. I think we'll do several conversations on this and on some crazy things that we're doing with MvX. Obviously, this is one step that's just a reminder of how much can be missed, let's say, if we are not chatting, not discussing, not diving deep, and then how much can be surfaced of this value, and then taken out so that the entire community discovers it, sees it, and uses it. Because I do believe, to close the note, I do believe that however you look at things, and this is definitely not an investment advice, however you look at things, MultiversX and EGLD is almost discounted by a fraction of 100, if you will, to not say 10. So this is a good moment to wake up, to double down on some things, and to align with the value that is being built, because right now it's made real. Whereas you can speak about what you want. Let's say I want to conquer the world. Okay, how do I conquer the world? The steps that we've discussed about today are the concrete, difficult, puzzling steps through which you can see how the value connects to some other parts of the world, how the value is brought back. It's not the job is not fully done today, as Dr. X mentioned. You want to say, for one step and one evening, we started the conversation. Now it's about processing it a bit, giving some space to the team to come with some updates, and just take the challenge on every day, and do some more bashing of the heads sometimes, as the builders will do. So thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it, and see you very soon again.
Thanks, everybody.
Stay
Happy
tuned.
Sunday.
Keep strong.
Take care.
Bye,
Take
everybody.
care. Bye bye.
Stay
Bye,
strong.
Robert.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.